You may know the author and kind of public figure Anne Lamott, yes? Yeah, she's kind of our neighbor down in Marin. And she's quirky and fun, and she loves telling, or she's willing, I guess, to tell stories on herself, which is great because she's got some great stories. And one of them that she tells is that she had a friend who was dying, and she went to visit this person in the hospital, and they go and they have this beautiful conversation, and she's feeling like, wonderful conversation, ministry, and she turns to leave the room and catches an image of herself in the mirror, and then she says to her friend, "Do these pants make my butt look too big?" And the friend replies to her like, "I'm over here dying, Anne. I don't know." Poor Anne Lamott kind of missed the moments, didn't she? She kind of missed the point of that whole visit. And we all miss the point from time to time, although hopefully not quite as dramatically as that particular story. But then again, we're all human. And Paul, our author this morning, is trying to send a message to the church at Corinth about missing the moment. He is concerned because the vanity and pride of the people, they are concerned about status and wealth. And this is a little church plant that he started in the town of Corinth. And they are trying to figure out where to put their trust and where to place their values. And so you will notice that Paul threw out a lot of theological ideas, and they may sound a bit strange to our ears. It's 2,000 years old. We'll see what we can do with some of that here this morning. But our world is also given to such concerns. From social media to consumer culture, all of these things in our world are inviting us to pay attention to things such as how our clothes fit and how our hair looks and what kind of car we are driving and where did we go on vacation. And it is easy to be caught up and distracted. Even many progressive and enlightened people such as ourselves can get caught up in comparison games and although I think sometimes we have the good sense to just compare our folly rather than our fortune, or humble brag about the latest attempt to lower our carbon footprints, we compare. We're human, and we take pride in that sometimes. And of course, we naturally boast about the things that we love. I hear about what you boast about around this congregation. We boast about our music program, our community, our history, our inclusive nature. And this isn't to say that our boasting is bad. This community is an important part of our lives. I've also seen that as we come into this sanctuary for truly profound moments, like those marking life and death, we sit with the mystery of death in this space. And I wonder if you, like me, begin to do a little bit of reflection on my life and wonder things about where do I want my pride and my sense of worth to come from? Is all of this vanity? What do I want to accomplish before my time is over? Is it too late to do or to try? How do I want to spend the rest of my time? And these questions are heightened this week, this month, by all of the violence and death in the news and the world around us. And then it is easy to get distracted by silliness and yes, comparisons, because they do distract us from these really hard questions that I suspect many of us struggle with. Now we can imagine that followers of Christ 2,000 years ago were also looking for distractions from the difficulties in their world. They were probably having a very difficult time because they were following someone who had been brutally demeaned and dehumanized, tortured and killed by the state. And the practice of crucifixion was intended to cast shame upon Jesus and anyone who might dare be in relationship with him. Crucifixion was an original cancel culture. And yet here is Paul and this church and other little churches popping up in defiance of Roman brutality. They were not quite sure what to do in the face of these distractions and shame. They wanted to put their pride in something, someone else, someone tangible who had just a little less to do with that shameful moment. And so they point to Paul and they say, I was baptized not by Christ, but by Paul. And Paul, I don't know if you caught it, but Paul says, hey, don't do that. I didn't baptize you. Oh, well, yeah, okay, I baptized you and you. Oh, and you. But I didn't do it for me. He says, you were baptized into Christ, not into Paul, which is foolishness to stay connected to that kind of trauma, isn't it? Now, I've been thinking really hard, trying to come up with some sort of example of that same kind of foolishness, that system of oppression and fear that was the Roman Empire, that was crucifixion. And the closest I can come to at this moment, and in this moment I would say might be our policing system. Now, many of us may know that the police system was born as a way of rounding up slaves and taking them back to their masters. It is a system grounded historically in violence and dehumanizing people of color. And if our basically white perspectives on policing are that police are nice and kind, I would invite you to remember that the system is set up to value people that look like me and most of us. It is a system that was put in place to protect us and our property, and thus is a system of oppression and shame if you are a person of color. Not to mention a violent system. Now, I hope you did not hear me say all officers, but I'm saying that the system is very, very, very broken. And it is going to be very difficult to bring about peace and justice in a system that is that broken. Not impossible, just really, really, really hard. So 2,000 years ago, the Church of Corinth was trying to figure out what to do in the face of their violent system. And they were trying to figure out where to put their trust and where to put their pride in the midst of conflict and social pressure against standing up with pride and saying, I knew Jesus, or I follow. And to quote a modern biblical scholar, the foolishness of the cross reduces all human pretense to control and all boasting in human accomplishments to nothing. It's not about you. Paul puts our boasting about human things, human stuff, like pride and ego, into perspective, and he says, following Christ means that your life is no longer about you, just as Christ's was not really about him. And as I read that, my ego goes, ouch. And I know that our culture says, nope, that's not the right way. And I wonder how that sits with each of us here. For following Christ means putting others at the center of our lives, or at least putting God, and we know God through people, right? So putting God and others at the center of our lives, which sounds a little bit like foolishness. And so then I wondered, okay, well, what do modern Christians say? Do we have something to say about this? And so I wondered if that had translated, or if we as a church and a denomination might have fallen prey to some of this human cultural stuff. And so I went, and just for kicks, I looked at the United Church of Christ's website, their homepage, our church's denomination's homepage. And I was kind of surprised and pleased, maybe not surprised, but pleased to see these headlines. Here are some of the main bullet points from our website. Doing justice, seeking peace, and building community. Help us make meaningful change. Join the movement. Working toward a just world for all. Action alerts. Help us make meaningful change. I also looked at a couple of other denominational websites that shall not be named, but they didn't make it into the sermon. Just saying. Now, is that a boast about God, or is that a boast about human stuff? What do you think, church? Maybe both? I don't know. But I think we all know and we can agree that there are issues facing us that are simply too urgent to wait to address. And our denomination wants to help us jump in and make a change. And I know that we here also feel similarly. Because coming together in Christ's name means that we are coming together to put God and other people, and not just the pretty or the cool, at the center of our community, at the center of our lives together. Pretty foolish. Yeah, it is. It is pretty foolish. And so I wonder, given all of this, is it enough to say all those things in here? It's not, right? We can have the best worship and the best preaching and the coolest choir and the most amazing 1 hour on Sunday mornings you've ever experienced. Oh, wait, do we already do that? Oh, okay. Oh, see, here I am again. Am I boasting in God, or am I boasting in human things? Friends, it gets really tricky. It's a very fine line. It was very hard to figure out what to say this morning because that line is, right? We can have all of those things, or we think we can, and yet I think we can also say that's not what changes the world. Not on its own. And so I wonder what it means to say that we're proud of our church or our whatever it is. Is that enough? Or are we proud of our church because of this connection to bigger things? I wonder how we lean, or can lean even further into God and let go of some of these judgment pieces that are so prevalent in the world around us. What might that look like? What might that feel like? And then on the other side, how might our words about the pride in our church shift, even subtly? The beauty of God's foolishness rests in God's desire to turn the tables, to flip the script, to hold up those who are shamed and despised and forgotten, and in so doing, we can rejoice because that means that there is room for everyone at God's table. God's kingdom is not just about those who seem to have it all. And that is really good news because it is a leveling of the playing field, and it invites us all to be together in our humanity and in our common desire to treat everyone equally, and that all might have the resources they need to live a good life. For that is the good news, as our denomination puts it forward, that God came to love and to bless all of creation. And so when we stumble, and we do, and we fall prey to the world's comparisons and hierarchies, and we find ourselves striving for other things, may we remember and be held by another culture, another vision, a deeper relationship. And that is the one with the creator of the universe who foolishly loves and delights in the parts of us that we might rather hide, or in the people that we might not want to socialize with. And yet we are called to build that vision actively together. And we need each other, all of us, inside and without of this space, to come together to build that kingdom. For the good news of the foolishness of the cross is that it's not about us, but it is giving us direction. And there are people, of course, fighting today for that, within our denomination and without. And today I want to hold up the people of the Black Lives Matter campaigns, because they are one such group that is building community and awareness and power to change lives for those who are greatly impacted by police brutality. So let us support, not just as individuals, but also as a church, in ways that help build God's topsy-turvy, foolish world. One that is filled with connection, and one that loves us for who we are. No exceptions. May it be so.